Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming today. We really appreciate having such a good turnout. I'm Catherine Ingvaldson. I am this year's board chair for our local AFP chapter of Oregon and Southwest Washington. And I'd like to also thank our board. Those of you here that are members of our board, could you stand so we could thank you? Thank you. We also have two additional board members that joined us. Oh, there's a little feedback. That's me. We also have two new board members that you may not have met. Linda Rondinelli, who is co-chairing our marketing. Is Linda here? Oh, you're right. I see Rowena, but now I see Linda. And then we also have Brenda K. Scott, who is rejoining our board. She was on our board before, and she's helping us with our education in CFRE. So thank you very much, and a thank you to... Yes, I was just going to say thank you to Rose City Philanthropy for being our remote access sponsor. So there are people in different parts of the state that are able to join us and enjoy this presentation today. So thank you for that. I'd also like to welcome our IDEA IDEA Fellows today. We have all four in the room, I believe. They are on scholarship this year to help us with our work and promote our diversity and access and just be great representatives in the community. There's Derek Cruz, Celia Ferrer, Rowena Norman, and Lillian Ongalunga. Did I say that right? Oh, well, they're not here. Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much to all of you. I would also like to thank very much our sponsor of today's program, and that is Cook Silverman. And we have Jenny Burns, who is the local representative of Cook Silverman, who is here, and I'd love to welcome her up to tell you a little bit about their organization.
Hi, everybody. I'll be real brief. So I'm Jenny Burns, and I am somewhat new to the area. We've been up here for about 18 months, and I'm originally from the Bay Area. So Cook Silverman has been in the business for about 20 years. We're an executive search firm that focuses only on nonprofits and development. And so we're really excited to be able to sponsor AFP because we, at the boutique firm, are all fundraisers and nonprofit executives by background. So we love to sponsor fundraisers. And focus on people who do what we do. And so the way that we have a competitive advantage from other search firms is that we are able to search folks that we So we are fundraisers, and we are able to find fundraisers ourselves. So we're able to ask those kinds of questions that that other firms may not be able to ask. We've had over 20 years experience, 400 successful searches under our belts, and we're really excited to expand here into Portland. So happy to answer any specific questions, have some materials for you right here, and a lot more detailed materials for you if you're interested. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Jenny. Well, we are so happy. We just had our board meeting, and we had a lot of great things to discuss, and we were so lucky to have our representative from AFP Global here, who I'll introduce in a moment. But we just want to put a call out for any volunteers, any of you AFP members who are interested in getting involved. There are a lot of great opportunities, and we can work to find something that suits your skills or helps you expand your skills. And Amy Brown, right here, is our board leader for volunteer engagement. So if you're interested, please connect with Amy and we'll get you started on your next leadership opportunity. So thank you very much. Now, I would like to, I also want to say National Philanthropy Day coming up in November. What day is it this year? 19th. November 19th is our annual Philanthropy Awards, which is a really big event for us, and I think probably most of you in the room have attended at some point. This year we're excited because we are changing our venue. We're trying out the new Hyatt over by the Convention Center. It's going to be amazing. We've got some new ideas that come along with that. So nominations will open sometime in the next few weeks. So be thinking about great philanthropists in the communities and leaders in the philanthropic community that you want to nominate. That'll be coming out soon so that you can do so. Well, thank you so much to Derek Mulhern, who has joined us from Washington, D.C., from our global office. And I'm going to tell you a brief bit about him. I just got this information today. We were so fortunate to have him come and join us earlier in the week. He's been on a road trip for over 10 days now, going up and down the West Coast visiting chapters. He is our chapter development director from AFP Global. In this role, Derek supports AFP chapters through strategic planning, membership recruitment, and engagement and programming. He's responsible for building relationships with chapter volunteer leaders and driving overall chapter success. While not trained as a fundraiser, Derek's no stranger to the nonprofit sector and has deep experience working with member-based organizations. And we've had the opportunity to have him join us on several meetings with community partners and with our IDEA fellows and with our board. And he's really helped us learn more about what's going on around the country, what's happening at Global. And we're fortunate to have him here today to share this topic of leading where you're at, and also leading from where you're at, and also sharing some of the resources that AFP offers to our membership. So please welcome Derek Mulhern.
Hello, how is everyone? All right, I'm going to try to not move around a ton, but to not get stuck behind a podium as well. So first of all, I just want to have a few thank yous. First, thanks to Catherine and Cynthia for all that they've done the last couple of days in helping me understand the nonprofit sector around Portland. There are a lot of really exciting things going on that clearly you all know about, but it's really exciting to know what's going on here in Portland as well as around all of Oregon and Southwest Washington. It's really a great thing that you guys have going on. Also, thanks to all the board members for your dedication to AFP, and thanks to all volunteers who are helping with any activities within the chapter. Just a quick show of hands, who here, and those of you that may not be, you can raise your hand at your desk if you're from afar, who here are AFP members. Thank you for your membership. For those of you who are not members, I invite you to join AFP, and I'm sure any of the board members will help you get an application filled out as well. Thanks to Cook Silverman for being a sponsor for today. I actually had a quick opportunity to meet Victoria Silverman in San Francisco. She's the current chapter president at the Golden Gate chapter in San Francisco. So the fundraising world is small, and we all get to interact with each other quite often. But more or less, I just kind of want to dive into the presentation today and give you guys an opportunity to understand a little bit more about AFP, as well as how you can take the resources that AFP has and understand the industry that we're in to be able to start leading a little bit, no matter where you're at, because at the end of the day, you don't have to be in a leadership position to be a successful leader. There's a lot of opportunities to do that. So just to give you an idea of how this will be structured, I'm going to go through the whole presentation, and I want to have an opportunity for some conversation and discussion or questions at the end. But I'm basically going to frame this around a satisfaction survey that we did. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we dive in. So first and foremost, who am I? So you have an idea of who you're talking to. My name's Derek. I've been working in the association industry for about 10 years now, as Catherine alluded to, mostly with membership and volunteer management, but I have done business development, so I think I have a bit of an idea what happens in fundraising, but obviously you know a lot more than I do about it. I'm a huge advocate for leadership. I have a part of my degree is in leadership training and development. I'm a connector of people and teams, so I love hearing new ideas and really understanding how we can best facilitate new things happening with lots of really good ideas and people in the room. I really love to travel. I can be very honest with you though and say I'm sick of traveling right now. So as much as Portland's been great, I do have one more trip after this, and then I get to go home to DC. I love wine and coffee, two of my favorite things. And I am a donor to great causes. Oftentimes for me, it's politically, but there are a lot of philanthropic causes that I try and throw my dollars at now and then as well. So thank you all for your work as fundraisers. It's not an easy job at all. And just an idea, here's what you're going to expect today. We're going to give you a little bit of background. We're going to take an opportunity to really talk about fundraising being the leadership profession and what that means, and really take an opportunity to understand how you can take on the challenge of what's coming down the pipeline and what we're dealing with right now in the fundraising profession as well. And within that, it's all going to be woven into how AFP can support you along that journey with a lot of member benefits that we have, and I'm sure you'll be surprised by some of the things that you learn are at your fingertips as member benefits with AFP. So, as I said, this is all going to be framed around our 2019 job satisfaction and workplace issues in the fundraising profession. That was conducted with AFP and the Chronicle of Philanthropy. So you'll see a lot of statistics here. I don't want to bore you with them, but I think they will really bring to light a lot of the relevant issues and help us understand why it's so important that no matter where we're at in our career, how we can take charge to be able to be a supportive team member, to be able to take care of ourselves and keep us from burning out, but then also just how we can really develop those leadership skills and move forward in the profession. So this is what we're seeing a lot of right now. We're seeing things like the sector is has a lot of shortage of fundraisers. We're seeing headlines like we have an exodus of fundraisers, and that one is covered up. But it says by 2021, by 2021, 51% of fundraisers will be looking at changing their jobs. So there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are going to dictate what it means for us in the profession and what it means for our roles and our careers. So just a little bit of understanding of where we're at right now based on this survey. So right now, government spending into nonprofits is down. It's not down by a ton, but the government isn't putting as much money into nonprofits as it historically has. So that means that fundraisers do need to step up. So trends are changing. While the number of funders is going down, the amount of fundraising dollars brought in is going up, but that's mostly due to a number of major gifts going up. So it's not that we have this bigger pool of people that we're drawing from that we're engaging more people to bring in more funds. It's that we have more or individuals that are just giving more dollars. So I think that's something we'll need to really be thoughtful of as we move forward. There's a bigger shift towards major gifts right now, and those major gifts obviously take a lot more work, time, and resources to get. And the other thing with all of that is that there's a ton of misconceptions and misinformed expectations out there. So when you walk into a job, oftentimes a CEO might think that you can, be a really effective fundraiser and by the end of the year bring in 3 major gifts. So there's a lot of education that we have to really help our entire organization, as well as those people that are supporting us, really understand what it is that they can expect from us and how we can best be successful in that role. And I think there's a lot of that will help us and help our teams be set up for success as we move forward. So over the next 2 years, these are 2 of the more staggering statistics that will kind of make your heart flutter a little bit. 51% of fundraisers are going to consider leaving their jobs in the next 2 years. Now, again, we all probably take a moment and think, do I want to leave my job? So when somebody answered that question, I wouldn't take it super strongly that they're all going to be leaving, but I would say that we do really have to consider that this is a trend within the fundraising sector that we need to be aware of. This is the one that scares me a little more, and I want more data behind it. But 30% of fundraisers are likely to leave the field in the next 2 years. So that means that they're looking at saying, I'm not going to be fundraising anymore. They might stay in nonprofits, but they might not want to do that fundraising. So there's a lot of opportunity here for us as AFP and other organizations to dig down into data like this to better understand why people are leaving the profession and how we can better support them in staying in. So I think as we go through this presentation a little bit, I really want to take an opportunity for you to better understand how you can start to support your colleagues and understand, no matter where you're at, how you have an impact on helping keep people there.
How does this compare with past surveys?
That's a great question. I can pull the data up a little later and see if I can find it. We do this survey every other year, so I need to take a peek at that and look. It's higher, I know that. So what does this all mean for you? It might mean that you're looking for a new job inside or outside of the sector in 2 years. Hopefully none of you in this room are, but likelihood is that someone is. It might mean that you're going to be taking on more work because a colleague has left. I've heard a number of people in the discussions we've had here just in Portland talk about people that have either given their notice or left within the last 6 to 8 weeks. So that's just one example of people that are leaving the profession and more work that has to be picked up by others on the team. You're going to need to be hiring employees or replacing staff, which is a resource. It takes time to do that. So you either as a manager or as someone that is a CEO or an executive director will have to focus more and more time on items like this. You're losing time on getting some of those major gifts that you've had those individuals putting that effort into. You're going to lack the staff to try and get fundraising goals. I don't mean for this to be super gloom and doom because it's not. I think what we really have to understand is just what this means for us and our careers. So what it means is that we're in a career and in a sector that's constantly full of change. Regardless if that's just people moving in and out of your career, there's a lot of change that will continue to happen in the nonprofit sector, particularly as it relates to the fundraising sector, that we're really going to want to kind of dive into and understand. So if you're not a person that's really in tune to change or agile, not telling you to get a new career, but telling you that you might need to buckle down and understand how you can learn some of those skills a little bit better as you move forward. So all of this comes to kind of what I want to talk about today, which is what is it that you can do? So again, no matter where you're at, you have the opportunity to lead and really think through these things. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more within each of these items, but you really need to take care of yourself. And that's one of the biggest, I think, components of what we've learned about this. I'll tell you a little bit about what AFP is doing around mental health and self-care. Network resources, really understand how you don't recreate the wheel, and you really reach out to your network and use things that can be of value to you and tools that will help save time. Really invest in education and professional development for your team, but for yourself as well. And then when we look at our jobs and our workplaces, we're really going to want to create healthy cultures. So what does a healthy culture mean for bringing people into this sector and keeping them there? And what does it mean for you being satisfied in your job and in your role? And then the other thing that you might do is you might be looking for a new job. I'm not advocating for anyone to run away from their current role, but there might be a wrong fit, or there might be a transition that you are ready to make that your organization can't support at this time. And really understanding what that means for you and the tools and resources that you'll need and how you can plan for that, but also as a manager or as an executive director or CEO, understanding that you will have employees leave and what does that mean for you and how will you be able to support them in that. So let's dive in, and I need a drink of water. So Self-care, yes. First of all, hydrate always. It is very important. I'm just going to dive into some more statistics. I don't want to belabor these. 93% of the people agreed that they could only work for a nonprofit where they have a strong connection to the mission. This, I don't want to say this astounded me, but this really made me think a little bit more when I read this about burnout. Because when we work for a job that we passionately love, it's really easy to not disconnect. It's really easy to take that laptop and phone home and continue to check that email until you go to bed. So I think that this statistic is something we need to be aware of. If you're working for something you're super passionate about, you have to be even more thoughtful about disconnecting and stepping away at times. 84% said that they agree that they feel tremendous pressure to succeed in their role. That's, again, another big thing that we need to keep aware of. I can only share anecdotally from my role in business development how much pressure I felt, and I know that fundraising is even harder than that. 55% said that they agree that they have often felt underappreciated in their role. So how we recognize and reward our employees is really important. 79% said they agree that the benefits of their job outweigh the negative. That's great. So, it's probably that 93% of the people that said that they really want to be passionate about what they're doing. I think that's the piece that kind of weighs in here. And then 77 said they're satisfied with their work-life balance. Is it the right work-life balance? I don't know, but they're satisfied with it. Small tips, again, nothing earth-shattering, but really make sure people eat healthy. So no matter where you are, who you are, take opportunities to assure that you're eating healthy meals, preparing your meals, taking an opportunity to exercise. So really working with those organizations that you're at to create routines for exercises. We, at my last employer, we used to take, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we would take 15-minute yoga breaks. And that was just a good way for us to disconnect and, take a little bit of time for ourselves. Now, I know we don't all have time for yoga, but just small things like that can really help you be a little bit more aware of where you're at. Really do things and practice reducing stress, and take your time off. Don't get to the end of the year with all this time and either lose it or just keep carrying it over. Take time off as you're able to. And employers, this is something that I'll also say, this isn't just leading from where you're at in I should take my time off, but as an employer, recognize the time that your employees put in and give them the time that they need off. So have good benefits that allow for this, but also understand if you have an employee that's working till 9 o'clock at night, let them show up at noon the next day. The world is not going to shatter. Their work will get done. If their work's not getting done, have a conversation with them. But we really need to be able to be as flexible as we can to understand that we need to help and push our employees for work-life balance, not just put all of that on them. Because just telling them to take their time off isn't just going to be the end-all, be-all, and the savior. So what is AFP doing to really highlight the work of self-care and where self-care falls? So we've really launched this year, and it's been one of the bigger things that we've got really tremendous feedback on is some workshops around self-care. So for those of you that are members, at 1 o'clock on February 27th, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, there will be our first big free webinar around mental health, not burning out, and taking care of yourself. So I think it'll be a great opportunity for everyone to hear what I said in the slide before, but more in depth and a lot more technical. In May-ish is what we're aiming for. We're going to be doing a virtual conference. There will be a small fee for that, but it's probably going to be about a one-day virtual conference all around self-care, mental health, etc. So I think there's a lot of good opportunities there. And for anyone that's going to AFP Icon, we will be having some conference sessions around well-being and burnout. Network resources. So this is the second thing that you can do, and probably one of the things that AFP is, really strong in helping you succeed in. So the statistics behind this are that 73% of people are satisfied with the amount of money that the organizations are allocating for fundraising. So I say that because that's all about resources and what you have to be able to get your job done. People are feeling fairly okay with that. 67% are satisfied with the technology they have. A lot of that really goes behind the databases and CRMs, the event tools that they have. Those are really good things that people have. We really need to continue to look at that. It's going to continue to change year over year with new technology that will continue to come out. I was telling a few people the other day that my AFP for my professional advancement is ASAE, the American Society of Association Executives. They, this last year, moved away from having a CRM. So they basically have modules that do the things they need it to do, and then they're laying over that to pull it all together. So I'm not saying that that's the direction we're going, but it may be the direction that we're going, that things are changing in a way that just continually looks different, and we're going to have to adapt to that, and that's going to mean more learning for us, more time for us to try and figure all that out. I saw a few sighs of angst over that one. And then lastly, 50% of staff are satisfied with the amount of time that they have to perform the organization's fundraising function. So we don't have enough time. Who's shocked by that? But it will continue to beg the question, do we need more resources for more staff? And at the end of the day, what are our expectations from our employers on what we need to get done and what we can get done? Yeah, thanks, Patricia. I think that's completely on point. We look so closely at having those people out front that those databases, they don't clean themselves up. We all know that. And for those of you that have noodled around with AFP database reports or have had membership challenges, I can speak firsthand from challenging databases. We will be upgrading our database, by the way. All that to be said, I just think that we need to really think about things that will save us time and investing resources in ways that are creative, and having resources and conversations about resources that aren't the traditional conversations that we have about just staff. There are different ways to be able to do this, and investing in technologies might be the way to save the time. So, some of the things that you can really do, no matter who you are really using your network to be able to reach some of these things, whether that be reaching tools, whether that be finding resources that you don't need to recreate. So what I've really been advocating for is building personal board of directors. Does anyone have a personal board of directors in this room? Agnes? Awesome. A few people that I know have started moving in this direction as kind of like a mentorship circle, and I think that it can really provide a lot of value. I'm currently building mine. It's something I've been working on the last couple of months, but really get some well-rounded people out there, because guess what? We can't vent to our coworkers all the time. We can't ask them all the questions that we want to, and our friends really get sick of it as well as our spouses. So we have to take the opportunity sometimes to think outside of that and get creative in a way that looks different. And I've already said this 100 times, don't recreate the wheel. The resources are out there. There may be some things you need to start from scratch, but don't do it unless you have at least asked the question, does this exist elsewhere, and how do I cater it to my organization? Learn best practices. AFP can be a huge resource for helping learn those best practices and use them as much as possible. And take the time to find the right employees and invest in finding those employees, because turnover will kill us. Turnover will be the thing that will make us lose the most ground. So do everything in your willpower to be able to take the time to get those right hires in. And again, I'm going to relate back to one of the other statistics that I read. 93% of people want to be passionately connected to what they're doing. What does this mean? This means that this isn't always just a skill-based interview. This isn't just an experience-based interview. Who can we have that we're going to have on this team that cares about the mission and understands what we're trying to achieve? And not that you don't need the skills, you do, but there is a big piece of that I think employers are starting to look at more now. And especially as we look at fundraisers, oftentimes how we find our way into the job is because we volunteered someone somewhere and they saw promise in us and we started to learn more about what fundraising really was. And there we are, ended up employed with that organization or something similar to it. So I think that's something for us to really, really keep in mind. So what are the things AFP is doing to provide those tools and resources, as well as help network and have resources and be connected to multiple people? So our webpage, we're working right now on having a little bit more good lingo so everyone can navigate the website fully to their capabilities. But we do have lots of tools and resources under the tools and resources section. There are a lot of templates. We have our Ready Reference series that a lot of people don't know about. There's 4 different books that you can download or purchase for $10 a piece. They're about development essentials. One's about managing boards, and they have really great tips and tricks within them that you can pull out for a lot of different things that you might need. But there's tons of reports in here. We're doing so many different types of research. I'll tell you a little bit about a sexual harassment research that we published in November with the Ohio State University. A lot of things in here, though, that will just really help you to do your job better and more efficiently and understand those topics that are important to you. Connect and network. Take an opportunity to just look through the member directory if you need to. You can actually search by like chief development officer and try and connect with people that are maybe in the same type of role or similar organization as you. I wouldn't say it's a super robust member directory. There could be better search functionalities, but I do think that it's a good opportunity to just kind of reach out and connect with people. Who here has been on AFP Connect? Sorry, question? You have to have a membership. And again, I believe there's many people in this room that will help you get one if you would like. So who here has been on AFP Connect? A handful? So AFP Connect is, I think, an invaluable tool. We're growing it. We have some work to do on it, but I think that it's still where it's at. It can be a lot of value to you. So what is it? It's basically an online community, a super Facebook group about fundraising where you can post about any topics that you want, and individuals can comment on that. I would say that we probably have people connecting on there multiple times a day, I would say. This screenshot is from our chapter resource hub, which is less used. But we have a lot of opportunities for people to continually connect on there and ask questions, pose questions, share resources, and it creates an entire library of resources that you can log into and just look at. Another thing that I think is really great within the connecting, networking type of realm is to take our AAUW online negotiation workshop. And I put this here instead of a different place because I think that this really just helps us have better conversations as well. So even if you're not looking to negotiate or get a raise where you might need to negotiate, this workshop will really help you understand a better way to converse and have a dialogue around challenging conversations. So the whole workshop is through the American Association of University Women, and their whole goal is to close the gender pay gap. So we've they have the program. We've created a partnership with them, and all AFP members can take the 70-minute online workshop of any gender or non-identifying gender. So anyone can do that. So feel free to log on if you're an AFP member and get engaged with that. Number 3 is education. So this is the other way that you can start to understand how to lead from where you're at is by taking advantage of some of the education opportunities. So 2/3 of fundraisers said that they're satisfied with the understanding of their organization staff about the importance of fundraising, which actually surprised me a little bit. I thought more people would be feeling as if their staff didn't understand fundraising. So I was happy to see this statistic. 75% are satisfied with their access to professional development. Also surprised with that one because I think not all employers support professional development in the same way. 66% were satisfied with access to leadership. And I think this can look really different for different organizations, but I think, being accessible leaders or getting access to leaders is really important in the roles that you all do. And then 56% were satisfied with the opportunities to receive mentoring inside or outside of that role. Excuse me. So I think that these are just some really good nuggets. I think the thing, again, that most surprises me is the understanding about the staff's importance of fundraising. And I think that that's something I would like to unpack a little bit more, because I think helping your entire organization understand fundraising creates an entirely different culture for your organization, and really helps rise up your profile as well as the profile of the profession. So what is AFP doing around the education and professional development pillar? So AFP Icon, for those of you that haven't been to this, it's the flagship fundraising conference. We brought in last year just over 3,400 fundraisers to San Antonio. Great opportunity for people to come to an intensive 3 days of workshops. There's pre-conference workshops that you can pay a little bit extra for. It's in Baltimore this year, the 29th through 31st. And then next year it will be in Minneapolis. And the following year, I believe it will be a little bit closer to you all in Vegas. So opportunities for you to get engaged there, and when really, I actually think within the next year or two, there will be more opportunities for people to do live streaming with this as well. We'll have packages that people can engage from afar. We do have webinars. They are accessible to members and non-members alike. They are for you do have to pay for them. It's $99 for a member, $79 for a non-member. So I don't want this to be a sales gimmick. That's not what I'm trying to achieve right now. We do have 4 free webinars every year, as well as our mental health series that we're working on. And those are CFRE accredited, or the plan is for them to be. I shouldn't say that they are, because they technically aren't yet, but they should be. So that's 4 free CFRE credits you can get through your membership, and you just log on to afpglobal.org to find them, and they will come out in the daily for those of you that get the daily. I know those of you that get it read it fully every single day, so just watch for those as they'll be coming down the pipeline. The thing that I really like, that I think is most underutilized, are our micro-learning series. They are from topics from fundraising to things that are leadership development related. But this is really an opportunity for individuals to do 4 to 10-minute sessions around topics important to fundraisers. And if you want to do a micro-learning session, reach out to us, and we'd be happy to also, see what you want to talk about. But we want to do these. They're free of charge. You just have to be a member to look at them, and tons of different ways that you can kind of do an on-demand. So we were actually highlighted through ASAE for our cutting edge ability to do our micro-learnings. And coming down the pipeline this year will be podcasts. Don't ask me any more than that. That's all I know. Through Blackbaud, we've created Blackbaud University, where there are 8 basic level fundraising courses that any person can log on to. So this is great if you're a beginning fundraiser. It's also great if you're not a beginning fundraiser and need a refresher. It's also great if you have staff that need an opportunity to learn some of these things. So again, free with an AFP membership. You can get online and go through Blackbaud University to learn some of these things. I think we're on number 4, which is to create a healthy culture. So again, culture is a huge reason that people stay or leave their jobs, and ways to continue to support fundraisers as well. So 3/4 of fundraisers said that they're satisfied with their salary. Again, that was a little surprising to me. 71% are satisfied with the support that they're getting from their organization's chief executive officer. Another good statistic. 51% of the respondents are satisfied with the opportunities for promotion within the organization. So I think that that's something to keep in mind in a number of realms. First of all, as supervisors who have employees potentially leave, don't always let it fall on your shoulders to feel like you failed, because that's not always the case. Sometimes it's time for someone to spread their wings, and your organization doesn't have the capability to help them do that at that time. And that's okay, because they can go and they might come back at a later date. So there's opportunities there, but I think we just need to be aware of that, and aware of when we bring people in, understand what their goals are and where they want to go. If somebody says in their interview that they are hoping to move up the chain in the next 2 to 4 years, and you're like, I'm gonna need this person to do this for 6 years, let's consider what that actually means. Or if you're starting people in positions where you can promote them within their role to give them a title increase and some pay increase, but not necessarily a change within the organization. And then 72% of fundraisers are satisfied with the organization's work culture, which, again, I think is a great statistic and something that we should be aware of. So fundraising, I put can be hard work. It usually is hard work. So some things that one can do around some of the culture things is to really compensate your employees well. And compensation isn't just salary. Really consider that whole package and what it means. Again, I'll go back to that vacation. I'll also talk about that retirement piece, because I think that's a really good thing that employers can provide, as well as some of those fringe benefits that really help support some of our fundraisers. I know we're all in nonprofits, and we need to, not all of us, most of us here are in nonprofits, and we need to be thoughtful about our bottom line budget. But the other thing that I'll say to that is it costs money to do business. So if we always decide that we're going to act like nonprofits, we have to understand what some of those results will always look like. So sometimes we need to understand how we're going to have the resources to invest in employees, in talent, and in those resources. Again, check in on each other. It's not always the money that someone needs. It might be like, oh, hey, you did a good job today, and really good work at that meeting. I know it wasn't closing a deal or anything, but I think you did really well. I think that support isn't there as much as we would like it to be, especially when we are a culture or a profession that is measured by big wins that happen not so often. So how do we continue to reward our employees, but how do we continue to reward people that are on our same level? How do we be supportive and look across the aisle to support our fellow employees? And how are we investing in those employees? Again, professional development is something that's really big and something that we should continue to be aware of and be thoughtful of. But then again, I mentioned this at the beginning, you will need to be agile from where you're at, because this is a lot of work. And you will need to be able to continue to understand that different things will influence the fundraising industry, so you really need to be aware of that. And then really just being inclusive. I'll talk a little bit more about some of our IDEA initiatives, our inclusivity, diversity, equity, and access, and what we're doing there to create cultures that support individuals from all backgrounds. So this is what we've dubbed the decade of fundraising leadership. So we understand that, I think we talked about this yesterday in some of the meetings I was in. We've got a lot of people up here at the top that are feeling like they're being served and they have the things that they need, and they're, doing well in leadership, and they're going to go start a consulting firm and everything's great. And then we've got these young professionals that are moving in and they're ready to move up the scale and do all these things. And then we've got this middle group that, have maybe been stuck in that specific role or part of their career for longer than they'd like. The recession kept a lot of baby boomers in their job longer than they wanted to be. And there's this gap in leadership skills. And there's this gap in leadership. A lot of people will be aging out of the profession, and we have a lot of jobs that we're going to need to fill within leadership. So AFP is focusing a lot of time and energy around helping develop fundraisers as leaders. Because why can't the development director or the chief development director or officer take on that CEO role? Why can't they take on that vice president role? They know a lot of what's going on, and contrary to popular belief, they know the programs really well because they have to sell them. So really know that AFP is really supporting a lot of things that we're doing in leadership. One of those things is through AFP Lead. It will be in Indianapolis, Indiana this year, an intensive 2 days around leadership training and development, much cheaper than AFP Icon and a little bit closer for you this year, than Baltimore, I should say, but an opportunity to really engage there. Excuse me. And then a little bit about our IDEA work that we're doing. So again, IDEA is inclusivity, diversity, equity, and access. AFP is really invested in doing a lot more work around understanding how we're inclusive of all people and rising people up from all backgrounds into the fundraising profession and making space for them. And I think this is a big part of culture, and how do we have a culture that supports all different types of people. So we've really focused a lot of that work first off around women in fundraising, because 74% of fundraisers identify as women. And that is a big piece where we've really invested time and money. So we did our Women's Impact Initiative in Phoenix, Arizona this past October, where we had 155 attendees. We published with the Ohio State University. If you forget the, they get very upset. A sexual harassment survey about sexual harassment within the fundraising sector, which was the results were, I don't know if breathtaking is not the word. They were shocking, and there's a lot of information in there to really look at and to digest. So really a lot of work with women in the fundraising industry, but we're going to be really diving more into people of color, working with not non-professionals, young professionals even more, to rise them up within the sector. So AFP IDEA is a lot of where we're spending some focus and energy and trying to weave that into everything that we're doing. Number 5, get a new job. So who here has an employee here with them? Anyone? Just one? Okay. Not that it actually matters. Or they're online. Okay. We're watching you. So long story short, I think we need to be realistic about transitioning out of a job or having employees transition out of jobs. We can sit here for all these points and say all the things we can do about keeping fundraisers in their job, but guess what? They're going to leave. It's the culture of the sector, and it's the culture of where we're at today. People will leave their jobs for new ones because they're just different opportunities. So kind of what we've seen around that is that 51%, as I've shared before, are likely to leave their current organizations. 30% of those are going to be in the next 30% in the next 2 years are going to be leaving the sector. And 44% are satisfied with the succession planning in their organization's fundraising department. I don't know the answer to that question. I would assume that we collected demographics information when we did this study. I basically pulled a lot of this and have done all of my learnings from the executive summaries. But I would like to look into that. So let's kind of dive into that a little bit later. But I think that that's a really good thing because it helps us understand some of the pieces or challenges that different demographics are facing. And one other thing I wanted to share, sorry, I'm skipping around now. Back to the IDEA concept is one of the things that we're doing right now is that we have a survey out to the fundraising profession. I don't know what the methodology was of how we reached different audiences in this, but we have a survey out right now to really understand what some of those big challenges are as it relates to inclusivity, diversity, equity, and access. And that's how we're going to continue to build some of the programming that we do around that. We don't want to guess or just keep making new decisions on the people or areas that we're going to focus on. We want some data to back that up. So we are doing a study on that that I think is going to come out this spring. But this 44% with the succession planning scared me a little bit because I think that succession planning within the fundraising sector is particularly important as we continue to look at those relationships and data that needs to continually be collected with it. So that was just something that stuck out to me as well. And those looking for new employment, I thought this was interesting to look at. The top 5 reasons people are leaving the fundraising profession: 29% for salary, 28% the management, 27% unreasonable expectations about fundraising goals. I thought that was a really good one to take away. A toxic organizational culture at 27%, and leadership, lack of respect or understanding of fundraising at 21%. A lot of these are things that we can manage. A lot of these things are things that we can have influence over. So continue to take an opportunity to understand if people are leaving, asking some questions and challenging yourself when that answer isn't what you want to hear or reflective about you or the leadership, what it really means and how we might be able to adapt a culture that really supports some of these things, but just understand what it means for other people at the organization as well. So really hope that, people can just plan for the next steps and have an idea of what's going to be going on for the future of what they want to do in their career. That's really the best thing that you can all do now, even if that means you're going to be staying in your current role or at your current organization for the next 10 years. So know when it's time to leave, and don't be afraid to do that if it's right. And have, as long as you feel comfortable, have open conversations with your supervisor manager about those things, and really communicate with them what your wants and needs are, because I think too often we have people that have wants and needs, and then they say they're leaving and they tell us what those wants and needs are, and we never had an opportunity to meet them. So really be communicative about that and open in that way. But just push yourself. Know that if you've been in a role for a long time, there may be opportunities for you to look for something new and or look within your organization for new challenges. And be supportive of your coworkers when they do decide to go on to new endeavors, because you're going to run into them again, especially in smaller communities like Portland, Southwest Washington, Oregon. You'll continue to interact with these individuals, or you'll move on to a team of people you're already on at one point. So what is AFP doing around this? We have AFP 360. AFP 360 is an online tool powered through Korn Ferry, where individuals can have a skills assessment, individuals can have their resume reviewed. All of this is for free. There's opportunities to look for jobs on there. If you put your resume in, it will tell you what jobs are best suited for you based on your resume and the job descriptions. So there's a number of things that you can do. Free if you're an AFP member. If you are a young professional, which we have categorized under the age of 31, you get one 30-minute session free with a Korn Ferry career coach that you can take advantage of. If you're not a young professional, it's $25 for your first one. So that's a really great rate. And then there is also an app that you can download on your phone, and you can practice interviewing or having tough conversations on it. That's free for 80 minutes of use if you're an AFP member. So just a great opportunity for you to be able to understand how to have better and stronger conversations as it relates to people with your boss, or looking for a new job or interviews, etc. So what does all of this mean? And yes, we're coming to the end, so if you have questions, start thinking about them in your head. You're in the driver's seat. You really have that opportunity to make the change that's needed. You have the opportunity to help create a better workplace culture, to take care of yourself. And this entire culture that we have, and a lot of what the fundraising sector is it's all made up of individuals who can contribute in different ways. So don't get stuck in a rut of feeling as if you're not the one to be able to make changes. You're not the one to bring new ideas. Everyone has that opportunity, and really, step outside your comfort zone to be able to have those stronger conversations, and have those opportunities to really support your employees in the way that's needed for you to be successful and for them to be successful. So I tried to leave a little bit of time for some questions and answers. So I will open it up for any questions, answers, discussions, and I will put the caveat on there. I am not a trained fundraiser, so I will do my best to answer some of the questions. If there's things I don't know the answer to, I'll just tell you that. Will do. So the question was, who took that survey and what was their role within fundraising? I would need to look just to get a little bit more in depth. It was 1,000 individuals, and I think it was a director level on up, from my understanding. So I don't know if it was all frontline fundraisers. Not necessarily every director level is a frontline fundraiser. So I can look that up. I have it on my computer pulled up, so I'll do that before we leave today. Other questions?
For new people that are entering the field, whether they're young professionals or people who are making a career shift, is there any data or research on where they're coming from? What backgrounds are they coming to us with? What schooling, is kind of the common, are there common degrees that people are coming with, or backgrounds?
The question was, those people that are coming to us in fundraising, whether they're young professionals or just new to the sector at any stage in their career, what's their background and how or why are they coming to us? I don't know that we have that data, but I think it's good data that we need. One of the things that we're having some discussions about right now is how we create personas of individuals that are starting to engage in the fundraising sector, and how do those personas help us understand further who are the people that we're serving as fundraisers, because I think it's a really interesting question for us to better understand where people come from. I think there's a lot of speculation made, but no, we don't have the answer to that, unfortunately.
But to follow up on that, I will say, like, I would encourage AFP to do more around that, because at almost every luncheon or activity that we had in 2019, we had people who were thinking about entering the profession, or who were relatively new to the profession and wanted to know more about what skills and what backgrounds they needed. And you might have even more information than us about that with your experience in the area.
Well, locally, if they're locally, if they're changing jobs, we see most people. Sorry. Thanks. What we've seen is a lot of people with career changes coming from sales positions, so banking, law, technology sales, anything like that, with the theory that now that they've worked for the man, they're ready to work for their soul, and they would like to be able to find a way to segue into the nonprofits. For the young people coming up, it is absolutely everything. Art degrees, business degrees, political science degrees, Masters of Public Administration. I mean, just anything and everything. And Derek was exactly right. They've had an experience. They've been told that they're really good at this, that they should take an opportunity. And it's really a matter of helping them with a living wage and some training and mentoring. How do you get into this field? And as soon as they can find that, they just lock right onto it.
It sounds to me like almost the conversations we have around retaining donors.
A lot like that.
For the first year, now how can you make
The retention. How do you, yes. Yeah, I think if we actually thought about the young folks from a retention model instead of a, we need an employee to fill this, we might actually think about it differently.
Thank you for that point of view.
And I think another piece to this, and again, I'm going to have a speculation moment here. I like to do this, is even over the last 10 years, there aren't many, but you can major in like nonprofit management, which you couldn't do 10, 15 years ago. There's even courses you can take, like some pretty in-depth fundraising courses in college. There's a Lilly School on Philanthropy. Like, there's all these opportunities. So I think one thing we do need to be prepared for is be prepared for some of those individuals when they're coming into the profession to be ready to hit the ground running, and be contributing members to the team pretty quickly. And we need to be prepared that if we interview someone that has that skill set and has that has a stronger background as a 22, 23, 24-year-old, we have to be prepared to understand how are we scaling them up? What are we going to be doing with them? Because they're going to get bored as a coordinator in 1 year, if not sooner. And that doing some of the data work to learn it is going to be great, but they're going to be ready to get out there and start making some asks. Other questions? Comments even?
Thank you. So we talked about, where people come from when they're coming to work in the nonprofit world. What about the people that are a part of boards? And we have a big mix of people that most of their experience is in corporate America, and trying to infuse that philosophy versus the philosophy of nonprofit.
I think I understand the question, but basically, how are we preparing boards to be able to do some of this work, correct? So we traditionally used to do a lot more work with boards, and I think we need to get back into some of it, where we provide our fundraisers with the tools to prep their boards and help their boards understand best practices. I was engaged in a LinkedIn conversation last night, and basically it was how much money should a board member be giving, and if they're on one board, should that be the should they be giving the most money to an organization for that or that board that they're serving on? So there's a lot of best practices like that I think we can better. Yes, the answer is yes. The answer is that's the most money you should be giving. You should be setting a huge example. But I think there's a lot of conversations around that we can help the entire nonprofit sector around if we better try and understand that. But we're probably not doing enough around it. But we do need to do more.
Should our board members be giving money? We actually just in the last year and a half actually removed the requirement to make a financial donation, to our nonprofit. We replaced it instead with every board member has to be philanthropically supporting the organization. That could be giving dollars. That could be other things that they are providing. But what we saw was for our organization, we were essentially excluding people who brought that lived experience that we needed to essentially effectively manage our organization. So we've made this kind of shift to thinking about it as what does philanthropic support mean for us? Fundraising, the actual dollars is one piece of that. It could be them actually telling their story that allows us then to be better fundraisers. So I just want to challenge that we need to think about that from an inclusivity kind of perspective and an equity perspective, because it's really, really easy for us to kind of exclude a lot of people.
I think that's actually a really great comment, and one that we should probably consider a little bit more, especially when we need some of that expertise and should be rising people up into those roles. So thank you for sharing that.
I just want to piggyback on that and say that I'm part of a board under Partners for Hunger Free Oregon, and it's amazing because they provide us with trainings that we need, from equity trainings, from how to organize and mobilize, and so it activates actually our strength, and I think that's our retention program right there. I mean, I would want to be really invested in this organization because I feel like I'm learning, and at the same time I'm able to use my skills to really helping the organization. So we look at it either in dollar form or also in the relationship that we build with the board and the organization.
I think what's really important as we look at boards at the end of the day is that we set clear expectations for them and we hold them accountable. Just because they're the board doesn't mean that we can't hold them, well, depends on who you are. Doesn't mean that we can't do our best to hold them accountable, or at least hopefully you have a strong chair that will help, or president or whatever that role is, to help hold those people accountable when they're not following through in the things that they do. Other questions? If not, I can stick around for 5 to 10 minutes, but my flight is in less than 2 hours, and I have to check bags. So, thank you for having me today, and I hope you all get a great deal out of AFP, and always feel free to reach out to our office or reach out to your chapter here. They're a great resource, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek. And I know you said coffee and wine, but we're going to offer chocolate. And thanks as well.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. So as VP of Professional Development, I wanted to let you know what some of our upcoming programming is, that you might be able to get that on your calendar. Look for our website for all of this to be uploaded in the next few days. So on March the 13th is our annual joint programming with the Northwest Plan Giving Roundtable. That will be held at Legacy Emmanuel and feature Peggy Cowden, Your Legacy as a Fundraiser, and Interactive Exploration. And that's a 7:30 breakfast meeting, so set your alarms. And don't let Friday the 13th set you off. In April, we have some emerging programming that is very exciting with OSU on the SECURE Act and its effect on all nonprofits, not just the largest ones among us. And right now it looks like we'll be able to host that both in person and we think as a webinar that you can take from your desk or remotely across the state. So I'm really excited that we're working on that one, and those details will be coming shortly. Right now we thought tax day was the best time to offer that. And then in May the 8th, we will be having a breakfast meeting in Vancouver, and that will feature Angela Beard speaking Buck the Trend, Stewarding and Retaining Mid-Level Donors.
So that's a little snapshot of what's coming up in the upcoming months. And I thank the Professional Development Committee for helping with all of the work this year. And I look forward to seeing all of you at those events. Use the extra time to network.